Good morning, everyone. It is pleasure once again to meet all of you through this session, and always it is a warm welcome from each of you to just bring our great speakers. Every once in a while, we come across leaders whose connection with Her Second Innings goes beyond an event; it becomes a journey. Meera Sangvi is one such leader where we first hosted probably Meera back in 2020s, and since then the bond has only grown stronger. Maybe she would be talking about that a little better. But that's the power of our community where we stay connected through the shared purpose and vision. It's been incredible to witness Meera's inspiring journey from her deep roots in technology to becoming a transformation leader. And she is going to talk about strategy and career navigation and how do you just switch from one to another as well. Her story beautifully captures what the session is all about embracing change, not fearing it. She is a live witness to talk about the journey with us today. Today's conversation AI careers not to fear, but to learn and grow together is a reflection of that belief. As AI evolves, it doesn't replace us at all. It requires more humans with empathy, intelligence, and adaptability to guide and manage it effectively. Meera will take us through the journey today and showing us how transformation is possible through a structured and human centered approach, showcasing her life journey today with us. And I'm personally excited to be with all of you on behalf of my team and Her Second Innings. We are privileged to bring her back to our community to talk about. So let's put hands together virtually to welcome Meera and my team and community would be with you, Meera, today, and excited to learn more about you. Keep inspiring and wishing you all the best. Welcome, Meera.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manjula. And thank you so much, Second Innings, for getting me back on this platform. It obviously, like we always say, life comes a full circle. I still remember the first one of my very first talks where this was my way of giving back of whatever I learned. And one of the first talks that I did, obviously, was because Manjula identified me as this one of those rock in, a gem in the making. That's how I look back, and I've always given it back tenfolds to people as well, where I've realized that there are hidden talents that we didn't know. I didn't know I could talk about my story, and that would be something that I would keep talking about. And today I'm going to talk about my journey. I'm going to talk about how that really matters. For those of you who at all were there back then, some of it I've obviously made sure that, it stays there. We'll talk more of current because the topic also is such that, we want to talk about what's happening currently, what we are doing, and how we are doing this. But that said, thank you again, Manjula. Thank you so much. Every single person in the team who's been so supportive and loving and warm. I love coming back here and I love seeing this community of women who are thriving, who's supporting each other, and you're in the center of all of that happening. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. So with that, let me just bring up my presentation. Let me know when you guys can see it. And yes. You can see this, hopefully. Okay. I'm seeing some Revati, anybody from the team can just confirm you guys can see this, right? You're good. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Thank you. So what I'm really going to talk about, like I already mentioned, I'm going to talk about my journey, the path that I've taken, how I've gotten here, what my job looks like today. It's a little complex when I talk about the role that I play, but I'll demystify it for you, all of you. What matters in all of this, and we'll have there a little dialogue amongst all of us. Plus, we'll also talk about I know for a fact a lot of you will look at ways of entering the field or trying to, the fact that you're here, you're showing up means that you have questions, you want to know how to get in. So we'll talk about, breaking that down with an action plan. And I think for those of you who know me, I love having a plan. I love breaking it down. I love making it simple. Just because I feel like simple plans always work. And without a plan, I feel like it's really nice to be a dreamer. You start with being a dreamer, but you obviously eventually need to come up with a plan of how that dream really takes shape. Then we'll open it up for Q&A. I've been hearing from the team there are some questions. So maybe we'll take that up as well at the end. So that's really the simple plan for today. It really as simple as it can go. For me, I think my entire journey or the path that I've taken, I obviously didn't know my North Star or what was my strength when I started my career. And I have no qualms admitting to people that I didn't know what my strengths were. I definitely knew all my weaknesses because, as a typical Indian person, I was overcritical of me. I always knew where my faults were, but I did not know my strengths. So when I started off, I think I was really grateful for the fact that I had a set of friends, a set of mentors, a set of people who were there to identify that, she's good at this. And I will always forever be grateful for it. Like a hike, I never knew I could take a hike before I did one. It's the same way with my journey. I didn't know a lot of it was possible until unless I really started working on it. So let me just break that down, right? What that journey looks like. I'm sure I started my career in 2001, December. Obviously, for some of you, it's like, oh my God, ancient. But yes, that's me. I started my career in 2001, pretty much at the base, which means that I had my job pretty much at the starting point. I think my salary was quite a joke back then. My parents obviously weren't thrilled. They were like, obviously, I'm a Gujarati who comes from an entrepreneur background. So most of the discussions were like, hey, we pay more than this to the workers who work in our space, and you're there taking a salary. What's the point? So it was very difficult to explain back then in 2001, and even now the commutes have never changed. It's been like crazy. So back then everybody was like, what's wrong with you when you can work somewhere which is like 5 minutes away? Why would you want to work somewhere where you're spending at least 2 to 3 hours in a day just spending time going and coming? And things did not become easier because I was taking up a night shift job. It obviously was that I had a field that I had no idea, a company that I didn't know anything about. I started my career in GE. I didn't know what GE was into. And I was like, okay, I know Indian companies, I know Reliance, I know this, but I don't know, companies like this. So completely naive, completely out of my wits to be there. And it did not help that my family wasn't thrilled for where I was. So I did not, I mean, and that's a very nice way of putting it. Obviously, they wanted me to quit. Every Saturday and Sunday, my discussions were, why don't you quit? Why don't you look up something else? And I still remember that those hardships were sometimes, obviously, it translates. So sometimes you feel like, yeah, maybe I should. But eventually, I think it was about the fact that I did embrace the night shifts. Gratefully, I made some friends who are still friends for lifetime. I mean, one or two. I'm not an overly extrovert. So I made one or two friends. I did manage to get some mentors who were willing to take a chance on me to say, I'm willing to spend some hours on this crazy woman who doesn't know anything about this, and I'm willing to teach you. I also took up a lot of challenges. I love challenges. Again, goes back to that overcritical mind. So I would take up the toughest challenges, which means, oh, I can achieve a metric. Then after 2 months or 3 months, for whatever reason, if the metric still stays on top, somebody or my colleague will, make a passing comment either on a break or something saying, hey, your team is already a high performing team. So what's the point? I mean, it's nothing that you're doing. There's no rocket science there. So just to prove them wrong, I would go up and take up a tougher team or a team that is actually a non-performing team. I've had at one point in time, I think I had everybody who reported to me was an underperformer. And my story was, how would I get them to a stage where I would still get my bonus? That was a monthly bonus system. And I would take that monthly bonus back home. So I was willing to take a bet on not taking my bonus just because I wanted to prove people wrong. Of course, over the period of time, I've also grown wiser and I've realized that it's not about proving anybody wrong. It's about what demons exist within ourselves that we are trying to prove to be right or wrong. Of course, in that whole journey, though I started with night shifts, I started pretty much with a BPO kind of a role. It was a back office, but yes, very close. The idea was that how do you kind of grow from there? So every single chance that I got, I took it up. If I had a clear metric, I achieved it. If I had a clear goal, I definitely took it up. There were obviously, so operations for me proved to be very easy and simple because it was like, hey, you achieve these targets, there you are. You keep achieving this for a while, there you are. You're going to get your bonus. This is how you're going to get your promotion. This is how you're going to. So I managed to grow. And that first, so out of all my career, I break it down into three segments. This was my first segment, very straightforward. I obviously became the operations manager. And within the first 2 years of even just starting my career, I obviously got married. I met the love of my life. I'm still married with him. So it was obviously life defining. And I feel like it didn't help me being in the night shift, him being in the day shift. Things were always tougher. He was always traveling. So we barely got much time. But all those personal challenges did not stop me. In fact, I used that time whenever he was traveling to, kind of take up extra projects, kind of take up extra things at work. So I always figured ways of how to make life happen for me instead of trying to think of, oh my God, he's not here. I should be complaining or I should be upset. I don't think I was that. I even now, my daughter's traveling. So it's like, how do I take up more things so that I'm distracted and I'm not thinking about it? Then from operations, the easiest way was obviously we were thinking about having a kid. I was also thinking of what else do I want to do? Someone again made a comment at one of my personal dinners, not even at work, but a personal dinner saying, hey, you know how to make operations happen. You're good at this. I mean, you can just now keep growing. Nothing new, nothing big challenging. Your team is only going to keep growing. So if it's 15 members, it's 45, then it's 50, then it's 100, 150. So what? You'll probably manage 1,000 people. So what? And then I obviously, like I said, I'm wiser today, but back then I was like, hey, I want to take this up as a challenge. I want to try something new. So when I got back as a boomerang case to HP, which means I left HP, went to Accenture during my ops manager role, the last role, and came back to HP, I was offered the PMO role, which was in the strategy. It was a small opening into the strategy. What I've also realized is that some of these roles do not come with a direct title. It was never the starting point of my job that I knew it is operations manager. Same way I did not know a PMO role would lead me into a strategy space. But a small portion, which is 10 to 20% of my work, was planning things and planning for the organization, how strategy would look like. And that itself was enough for me. It was like the oxygen that I needed. I took that on and kept breathing into it. So I did roles that obviously nobody else wanted. PMO back then was like frowned upon. My peer group were growing faster than me. So my career obviously took a little pause, took a little slower. So if somebody was getting promoted every 1.5 years or something, I was like taking 2 years, 2.5 years. And sometimes I'd get frustrated, like, this is not making sense. Obviously, there were difficult times, but again, I was trying to prove a point that I can do this and I want to figure this out. And part of me also realized that I wasn't challenged enough after a point in operation. So I wanted to take up strategy. I wanted to understand what that meant. I was looking not just like today's fire, but I was looking at 3 years, 5 years from now, how companies are going to do, what are they going to do? Somehow it just brought in a lot of sparkle in my eye and excitement. I was happy to take that up. I was really, really excited. So I said, okay, let's do this. And operations obviously means a lot of admin work, and which is why I was a little happy to move away from it because I felt like now I can go back to again being a horse and focusing on what I can deliver. Instead of what my team can do, I want to do it myself. So I manage much smaller teams. Instead of 150, then I'm managing 5 people. A lot of people were like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do this? But I knew that deep down, somewhere, those 5 people, and I never admitted this until pretty recently, that those 5 people were the smartest people I managed because they came with a lot of experience, they came with a lot of background, they themselves were smart in terms of trying to prove what they're doing. So I felt like I managed this beautiful team, and it was an all women's team, so I obviously enjoyed it. So this was part of my second stint, as I call it, in my career. Of course, from there, the easiest pick, I stayed on for the next 7, 8 years in strategy. But eventually, as things would have it, I got pulled. And in strategy, it's not like a straightforward thing. I got pulled into sometimes analytics. I got pulled into somewhere else. I got pulled into this team's downsizing, moving to another team. I've done all of that. But eventually, I got called in for this one of the boardroom meetings. And I remember the first induction into automation was a big argument. And I see the person who was going to hire me or who said, do you want to join this team? I didn't even know was my hiring manager, but said, do you want to join this team? And one of the team members who would become my peer had this major argument on day zero. And I'm wondering, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? But by that time, I think I'd gotten so used to being sometimes the youngest person in the room or being the only women in the room or the only, whatever tags you want to keep adding. I pretty much had them. So by this time, like looking at an argument, I mean, my brain was so wired to not being so overly sensitive or being highly aware. I think I was looking at always the solving of problems instead of like I was just hearing like, oh, this is not happening, that's not happening, this is not happening. And I was kind of intrigued and I was like, I don't understand half the conversation. What is this tech part of it? Do I need to know coding? Do I need to know things? Do I need to do things that I should not be? And then I said, hey, you know what? Worst case, I can go back to strategy. Worst case, I can go back to operations. In my head, I was like, okay, let's just go ahead with this, right? I felt like having zero knowledge again in this space was somewhere made me this empty pot, which means that I was willing to fill in with whatever I got, with water, with sand, with rock, with whatever I got, because I was like, anything is filling it up. I don't care. I'm not here only to fill it up with water. I'm willing to fill it up with whatever I can. And that was again my third stint of my life. And at that time, somewhere, obviously, because we'd been planning, we got a baby in our lives. Uh, it's been it's been the most interesting journey. So each and every time, I will always say that something big was going on at work, something big always was going on at home as well. And as much as people say that, you want to figure out a work-life balance, you want to figure out how to balance these two, or do you want to, did you plan for this versus did you plan for this? I planned for all of it, yet it was sometimes juggling, sometimes it was managing, sometimes it was leaning into my husband or my family for support. And between me and my husband, there was nobody else to take care of our babies. So it was very straightforward. We had to create an environment which meant both of us could do what we wanted to do. So I feel like a lot of it, sometimes when you have so many constraints, you figure out a way to get out of it. The fact that I come from an extremely conservative family, the fact that I come from an entrepreneur family, to be in the corporate world itself, it was a challenge. To come from, that background of looking at, say, being married and, being married to an Indian family, there are lots of things that are ifs and buts, like these are frowned upon, that's frowned upon. But for me, I think all of this has been a way of just figuring it out because I'm so used to these constraints that I feel like I've figured out that without a constraint, when everything is so smooth and easy and okay, I feel like there is something not going perfectly all right. So I'm used to challenges in that way. So motherhood happened, and that's the time from automation, like the way I mentioned about PMO being the starting point of my strategy role. automation became my starting point of getting into the tech space. And when I say my tech space means, let me also break down what that means today in my role. But before we do that, and I want to even explain to you guys what do I do specifically today, because it's a lot more complex than what I started off with just saying it was automation, it was a very simple thing. Vis-a-vis where I am today, it's a very different role. It takes me a couple of minutes just to explain what I do, which I think is for somebody who likes to simplify things, it's a lot complex, obviously. So let's unlock what all of this means. Do you understand my journey so far? And if you guys want to use the chat room, or you want to, feel free. I don't know, Revati, if you can do that, but I'd love to hear if you feel like there are the undertones or the fact that there is a theme in my career and you guys can see it. I'd love to see that as well. Because, okay, I'm seeing some people use the chat window, so which means you guys can. Okay, I see there are questions. Okay. Revati, a quick check. If I ask people to use the chat window, do you think they can use the chat window and communicate with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm there for you. I think, no, the question which has come about right now, okay, I'm on a break and will AI help me to come back into work? I think we can take it a little further later.
Yes.
But having said that, I myself have a question, and so our audience here, completely different from strategy, non-IT. When they say automation, it's all IT dependent. So
Yes.
how did you cope up with that? That's a
Mm.
completely drastic change, and very many of our candidates who are thriving to get into IT space, how do
Yes.
they approach?
Absolutely. Would love to talk about that. And I do have something ahead of it. Would love to get into it, would love to break it down because I kind of broke down my own journey of specifically the last phase, not so much as the ops and strategy, but the last phase. I broke
Right.
it down into like a simple, what does that mean from a technical standpoint of view? What does that mean from a skill standpoint of view, right? So that's something that I am. And let me just maybe probably move forward. So, and I will talk about what my role means today. And it's like I mentioned, it's a little more complex. It takes a little getting used to. My own family right now, while they're techies, they don't understand my role that well. It's a little challenging. So the role that I did was from the time that I was hired was that there is AI in the industry. How do you measure it? And obviously, measurement doesn't exist in full fledged. I mean, of course, everybody says yes, there is. There is a metric. There is a way to calculate it. But is there a very clear way? Not sure. And which is what was my job when I came in. How do you create a CEO scorecard? Which means I've worked at exec level, but CEO scorecards was something that I had unheard of. So for me to start thinking from a 50,000 square, feet high view was a bit
Mhm.
of a challenge. For the fact that my role also means to a large extent understanding how do you prioritize some of the portfolios, how do you figure out, and I sit under the team which actually funds all of these programs.
Okay.
At the same time, adoption, change, trying to understand, because AI, like you right, I mean, I think even Manjula spoke about in the introduction, some of the biggest challenges people have is AI is going to take away the jobs, AI is going to do this, AI is going to do that. But at that same time, you're also hiring. So people are getting confused. Why are you hiring? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I think it's also got to do a lot about the fact that which space hiring is happening,
Yeah.
which spaces probably do not need those roles. And I think
Correct.
the only difference, I think, in my opinion, because over the 20 years of my career, I have seen in the start of my career, people didn't speak about it. Today, people are talking about it a lot more openly, and they're talking about the numbers, saying these are the number of jobs that are probably going to get cut. These are the number of jobs that are going to be. So what happens is, and as we know, media sensationalizes all the things that are negative. We only hear about the jobs that are getting cut. Nobody talks about the jobs that are getting hired. So what happens is everybody's like, AI is taking away jobs. AI is taking away jobs. AI is taking away jobs that don't make sense, but doesn't mean that AI is not hiring places where we need workforce. And I think that's one of the biggest myths that people, I always tell them, how do you think AI works? My basic question to people is, who do you think AI is mimicking? It's mimicking something we've done, we've been doing. So if I have a way of presenting right now and I say, hey, AI, create a presentation, I did create these presentations at some point in time, right? And today's presentation I've created myself, but I'm just saying, it's like, it is something where the idea of, say, I can use AI to use it as a storyboarding or a first level soundboarding, saying, hey, Meera's persona or Meera's personal assistant, why wouldn't we all want a personal assistant? So, hey, personal assistant, tell me, what do you think in today's session I should really talk about in my career? What should I actually focus on? It's not that I have not led my journey. It's not that I don't know my career inside out. I have only so much time. What do I focus on? So it's going to say, focus on these 2, 3 things. And you're like, I want to focus on the 2, not the third one. Sorry, not making sense. I'm using it as a sounding board. I also feel like that's something that I have been doing in the organizations that I've been part of. So I become the soundboard. Uh, so eventually, is that a role that will, if somebody can figure out a formula for it, can they create something out of it? Absolutely. I also do, because of the AI's impact, I also look at understanding what competitive intelligence looks like. What does our competition do versus what is our workforce versus what is everybody's workforce? And, it's a lot of confidential stuff. It's a lot of interesting stuff. It's a lot of unknowns again. It's like, I have no idea. It's one simple question that somebody will ask at the leadership, and it takes me sometimes months, if not weeks, to answer that question. The fact that it takes me weeks to answer that question shows the depth. And all I'm going back with one-liner or two-liner, but I'm going with a lot of data points. I'm going with a lot of analysis. I'm going with a lot of smartness in that answer. So that is obviously the role that I play. And like I mentioned, it's not the most straightforward role that I've ever played, because it's easier to tell that, hey, I'm leading the digital transformation agenda, which I did last in HP. It was easier to say, bot for everyone. This is my role. I had a tagline. I had exactly what to do. Here, I think it's a lot more the way I'm doing the role, and I think this is going to be part of the industry. I think the more we are going to spend time in the industry doing roles that are new, it's going to be taking that chance and figuring out how this role can transform. And the starting point will always be filled with confusion. So now coming to Revati, to your question, right? If I really look down into what does that look for me? And while I was going to ask this question on the group, I don't know how many of you would, like, I'm sure, I know, Revati, you've asked that question, so I'm going to probably skip it. I'm sure everybody, has that question, like, hey, I'm sure she knows coding.
It's a very valid question, which everyone has actually. I handle so many thousands of candidates I've handled, and so many have come. Do we need to code? Because when it comes to coding and women on break, they know the hassle behind coding, sitting for hours. So sometimes now that they have to balance life and as well work, so they shy away from coding. So this is a very good question that you have posted actually.
Thank you. Thank you. Because I think I'm reading everybody's mind, because even I would have that question if I'm in the audience saying, oh yeah, she must know coding. I'm going to answer this in 2 folds. I did coding. The last time I did coding was in my undergraduation. And after that, I've never done coding. Not a single day of my life I've done coding, including at workplace. But is that something, the moment I did my coding, so people are like, oh, you did know coding. Guess what, guys? Not a single day I used it until 14 years, which means that I have forgotten everything. Because when I now tell people, oh, I'm good at C and C++, people are like, I think you should not mention these programming skills. These are ancient, these are forgotten. So I know Java, I know stuff like that, which was theoretical. It's like learning how to build an Excel formula as a formula, because that's what my education was. Very theoretical, not so much practical. Once a week going into a lab session for half an hour, half the time computer's not working. So I did that. That was my coding experience. I can write a code on a paper even now, but I can't probably type it because I don't know where to go and type it. So that's my coding experience. So not really an experience that I would count as something that I have and something that I use. What really actually matters is the fact that if you see my career trajectory, my business context, which means that I understand how to frame a problem. That, okay, I know coding is a problem for all of you. I understand because it's a problem for me as well. Because I've done a theoretical coding, even though I learned, I can't use it and I've never used it. I don't even know which platform to go and type it in. And guess what? It's all in theory. It's like statistical problems that I wrote. I still don't know how to use them. So the same thing that I think exists, but I know the problems and I can talk about the problems. That's my one big step, I feel, which has been my differentiator. When I'm in a conference room, people are talking about, do you know we were supposed to have this meeting? And do you know, oh God, I'm not able to even schedule this meeting. I'm hearing a problem and I'm hearing a way I can probably solve it. That's all I'm doing half the time. The second thing that I'm doing is obviously the example of being an empty vessel, which means that I'm willing to take in those stones, gravel, water. It doesn't mean that's all I'm going to take in. So I don't care if in the process I'm learning a little bit about data, I'm learning a little bit about governance, I'm learning a little bit about ethics, I'm learning about something else. It wasn't the plan, but I'm learning and I'm okay with it because it gives me a little bit of an idea of everything. And now I've realized that initially, I still remember, by the way, I'm just going to take a little trajectory. In an interview, one of the guys asked me, you seem like a jack of everything. So I knew that's a joke, right? Obviously, somebody's calling me a jack of everything, which means I'm a master of none. And I'm like, oh my God, he knows the truth about me. Now I've been caught. And I realized for some reason, out of my mouth came, yes, I'm the jack of everything. Sometimes you need the jack of everything. And he just took a step back and he's like, too much overconfidence you have. Of course, it's a different thing. I never got that job. And I'm glad I didn't because I don't think I want to work with somebody like that. But when I walked out, I realized, hey, I am a jack of everything. It took me almost a couple of months to accept that, yes, I'm a jack of everything. And guess what? I can connect the dots. I'm good at problems framing. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. It took me journaling. It took me talking to my husband, who's my closest friend. It took me a lot more in terms of the path to be able to say, I'm okay with being the jack of everything. I don't want to be the master of one. I want to be is a jack of everything. I'm okay with it because I'm learning a little bit about ethics. I'm learning a little bit about governance. I'm learning a little bit about problem solving and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm okay with this. So as a matter of fact, I'm always been more adaptable to change, which means that if somebody calls me into the conference room on day zero, says, you're joining this team, I'm like, okay, what's the worst? Hit me. I've done this and I'm going to do this again. I have no idea, roles that don't define, things that don't define. I'm okay with it. Sometimes my goals are not very well defined and I'm okay with it. And that's not got to do with the company or anything. That's because the industry as a whole is at some point in time with what is evolving very quickly. You can't just put it all in words. If you put it in words, it's going to be like one lengthy, one paragraph trying to explain a simple concept. The only way, it's like the first time I think all of us tried. I think I'm sure if any of you have to explain what a mixie jar does, I keep using this example, what a mixie jar does to your great grandmom.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's going to take you 5 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes at the very least, even if you're very good at it, to explain what a mixie jar does. Because she'll be like, but the stone does better, but this tastes better. Did you know I can do it? Do you know I can do it in 15 minutes? You're going to take 15 minutes. I know this, I know that. It's an impossible conversation. It's very, very similar, I feel. You want to take up things like that, but that doesn't mean mixie jar didn't make life easier. That doesn't mean it's not something we use every single day. That's one of my first steps of automation. But at the same time, the skills that really matter in my mind, if I put all that skill stack aside, is just the simple thing of connecting the dots. I took up roles that I felt I failed at. I just connected it to the roles that I succeeded at. I felt like I was willing to be that novice. I was willing to experiment. I was willing to say, it doesn't matter. What's the worst? Hit me. I don't care. I think being self-critical has helped in that ways and in more than one ways because I know the stuff that I'm probably not good at. But over the years, because now I'm wiser, I also know the stuff I'm good at, which means I know I'm good at experiments. You know what? It's okay if it fails because the whole space is evolving. What's the worst? After an year and a half, or 2 years, I will say this is not the role for me. But I would have learned something. And the beauty of something like this is, especially after 4 years, 5 years, when you look back, you're very grateful for an experience that you've had. Goes back to, I think, for me, my lifelong lesson is that Steve Jobs college lecture that he had passed on to all the students. Life connects when you look backwards, not forwards. But if you keep doing this for too many years, I feel, and I will add a little more to that, life also connects forward, which means today also, when I'm going through a failure, I'm like, guess what? This is going to come to me. I know this is what I've learned because immediately I'm willing to say these are the 2 or 3 things I've learned from it. Is it hard? Is it difficult? Need practice? All of the answer is yes. But does that mean I'm not? I'm prioritizing. I'm so sorry. I think I lost you guys for a second. That's bad.
Yeah.
My bad. So I'm just going to quickly recap. So just saying it's important to take a chance because someone has taken a chance on me. It's the same thing with you. The first job, go back to your first college, probably you took up something that you were not supposed to take up. You took up a tuition for something that you were not supposed to. You studied a subject you hated, but all of that was a chance. You know now what not to do. But you know also, sometimes you know very clearly, oh, I want to be an astronaut. But then sometimes you also don't know what all the things you don't want to do. I don't want to do housekeeping. I don't want to do cooking. I don't want to do this. It's okay. These are small things that you're making a list of, but eventually you will get like a pyramid of all the things that you want to get to. And be willing to make that list is all I would say. I hope Revati have answered the question.
Absolutely. I kind of thought like pick up whatever comes your way, and no, the core essence of it is adaptability and learnability of a person. I think if we can go far if we get that kind of an opportunity, just pick up and move ahead. That's what I think the entire journey of yours has been. Tried and tested. Wonderful journey. Yeah.
Thanks, Revati. I'm going to just take a couple of more minutes, and I think I'm going to come to a wrap. This is something for you all to just take maybe screenshots of or keep it with you, or, Revati can circulate it as well. I'd say come up with a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Different plans look differently. I'm creating a plan which I feel may work. You can modify it. Just because I've created it doesn't mean it's a plan that will fit for you. Modify it. But what I would do is pick a problem, stuff that you're doing well. Say, for example, you're very good with, let's just take an example of, say, reports. You're very good with your reports. If you're very good with reporting, try and figure out how can tech come into picture? How can AI come into picture? You don't need to code. You're just figuring it out as a problem, saying, okay, I do this every day. Do not think of it as a threat for a moment. Just keep it aside. Because if you're not going to figure it out, guess what? Somebody else will figure it out. So it's better that you figure it out that way. So my thought is that if you're doing a reporting, all you're going to do is, okay, let's take a step back. What are the new things in reporting that I possibly don't know? Then you just want to start exploring those things. Attending this talk, for example, is your first step. Same way, try and take up something as a course, or try and listen to TED Talks, or try and listen to experts. Whatever is what floats your boat, reading a book, whatever it is that works for you, take it. I did all of them. At every single stage when I've taken up new roles, so I have a library where I work, and the books are always overflowing. So now we've started doing a lot of online books and stuff like that. But the long story short is that's part of my learning journey. But that works for me. For a lot of people, I know people say, I can't do a book. It's okay. Figure out a podcast, figure out some other format, whatever works for you. Try and understand, connect with people. Like, say, for example, you add me to your LinkedIn, you're going to find somebody similar to me. You're going to find somebody similar to me. It's also just the fact that you're willing to meet at this moment. Eventually, you'll make that decision saying, hey, can I meet you up for a coffee? Or can we have a quick 10 minutes call? Or are you willing to be my mentor? You never know when that conversation takes up. So I always believe in taking that chance. Second step, 60-day plan. Come up with some experiments that you want to run, which means take up the same reporting part of it. How about I automate a part of it without learning coding? I don't like coding. Don't learn coding. Figure out how to solve it anyways. Take it up as a challenge. Figure out what can you do? What is there? Oh, guess what? If you just write it in English, a regular English statement, it codes for you. Fantastic. Let me figuring it out. And when you find a win, you will find failures. Whatever win you get, take it, move further, create a bigger win. And every time you get a failure, you're just identifying gaps, saying, oh, I'm not good at this, or this tool doesn't work, or this one doesn't work, or that one doesn't work. Then you at least have something that you're constantly, and when you're trying to solve a problem, you're likely to find, it's like the way I say, when I was pregnant, I found everybody who was pregnant, which is very silly. That's not true. It's the same way when you're looking for a problem, you will find people who are looking for the same problem. And everybody will say, oh, I also tried this, it didn't work. I also tried this. So guess what? You have some more bases of things that didn't work. Take that, try to figure out how does it work. That's how I see it. Again, doesn't mean that there are that many problems. It's the same thing as that doesn't mean more people were pregnant just because I was pregnant. I just found people like that. Same way, when you find a problem, find ways of everybody else finding the same problem, and you're likely to see it. In the 90-day, you want to hit it with some sort of, I figured out my gaps and I want to fix it. I'm not able to figure this out. I'm not getting it. Meera said I'll figure out the solution. I'm not figuring out the solution. You know what? There's a course on Udemy. Guess what? Manjula is running a course. Guess what? Somebody else said, take up this book. Guess what? There's a podcast. Today, suddenly my YouTube came up with a thing. YouTube is all crap usually, but guess what? Today I found some learning course. Take it up. You don't know where you're going to find it. You have no idea. You walk into a mall, for all you know, there is this inspirational speaker who's talking about something of this. You'll find it. Trust me. It's again like one of those things that when you're looking for a solution, you will find it. It's the same analogy. And the way I would go about this is, and I will break that down, practice it. You want to create those pilots. You want to create small pilots. Don't go with big problem. Oh, I want to solve world hunger. Try to solve saying, okay, I'm going to feed one person a day. Fixable, simple problem, easy to fix. You're going to find an auto driver. You're going to find a security guard. You're going to find someone. Try to solve one thing. Don't try to solve 20 things. Because when you say, I'm going to fix this also, I'm going to fix that also, I'm going to fix that also, you're going to probably keep getting overwhelmed by the number of problems you're going to see. But if you focus on one, everything else stays constant. Your life is not completely upside down. It can even be your home financials. As simple as that. Your home budgeting, it doesn't matter. I would also then move on to the next phase, which is network with confidence, which means what? Like I said, you add me, you're likely to find more people like me. You add somebody, you're going to likely to find more people. You will also ensure when you're interviewing with confidence, which means the gaps you found, the solutions you've done, the problems you've solved. Guess what? All those problems, like the pregnancy problems that you saw, are going to be your great catch in the interview discussion. I sometimes love a great discussion when I'm hiring someone to say, tell me all the problems you found. And they'll be like, why? Don't you want a solution? I want to hear all the problems because then I know you're genuine. Anybody can find a solution. Give me all the problems you found. They're going to tell me, oh, these are my top 3 problems, but I found 20 other problems. Then I know the person's not bluffing. The person's not making it up. Sometimes you want to hear what were the steps taken. And most often than not, because this industry is evolving, especially in the AI space, I feel like nobody wants a final solution. They want to hear your thought process. What will you do? What are you thinking? How you fix it? So I've just created this. Feel free to take a screenshot. I obviously don't mean to spoon feed because I don't like being spoon fed. So it's something that I just created. Feel free to, again, like I said, and I will end the discussion with, sorry, I think my slide is mismatched. So this should have been before. Roles that need no coding. Absolutely none. You'll be like, product manager. Okay, product manager is the same as a product manager. It's just that you're calling it as AI product manager. Your problems, your solutioning, your roadmaps, everything stays the same. I've just listed what? 6? There are 60 I can list if I had the time. It would just be overwhelming if I did that on the slide, but there are a lot. And the last time I think I'd done 20. So this time I decided I'll do a smaller list. So that is where I would leave you at, that there is a lot that can be done and you don't need to code. Because I can tell you, I have not a single day of coding in my last 7 to 8 years being in the tech space. So yes, back to you, Revati. If there are any questions, please let me know. Happy to take them up.
Oh, first of all, wonderfully put slides where anyone and everyone would have connected with this session of yours. Thankful for all this. I know how much of a thought process that would have gone through this. It's so humbling when I see, because I do career coach. I am a career coach and I do that. And this was really insightful for myself as well. So thanks for that. And yeah, we do, before moving on to the questions the candidates have asked, but I would, personally speaking, and there's a session coming up. This session that we are having today is a precursor to that session, which is happening on November 10th, 11th, and 12th. This is a session by UiPath. We are pairing up and collaborating with UiPath, and we are having a mentor session closely about the career in AI. What is the career in AI? So you also mentioned during your own journey about mentors. So I
Yes.
want to know about the take and what role did they play, and what
Yeah.
pointers, if you could re-quote someone, you can pull up and say that mentor said this, and this is what somewhere it brought a
Yes.
change. Can you?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Revati, for that question. The beauty of mentors and coaches, I'll also answer with coaches, is that while I always prescribe you should always have a mentor and a coach, not always you will find a mentor and a coach. Try to. If you get the opportunity, grab it with both your hands. But at times you might not. And you might get mentorship, say, in one space. You may not get mentorship in the other space. So, say, for example, I take my example. When I had my operations role, I feel like I had no idea what the metrics meant. Somebody saying, oh, TOC should be at 70%. What does TOC stand for? What does 75 mean? Why not 80? Why not 78? Questions like this, as a millennial, came in very easy for me. Why? But the answers sometimes came in from either a mentor or a coach, because mentors are the ones who'll give you the answer. Coaches are the ones who say, go look up what is TOC, go figure it out yourself. Why not? You're asking me 78. Why don't you achieve 78 and show me it's 78? They would do that. So one is pushing you, the other is pulling you. And both of them, and there's no wrong or right way, both of them work and they're a proven method in the industry. My logic is mentors are important because even if they're not in the tech space, they will give you guidance on what worked for them when they were in a similar problem. And they are going to likely guide you. And problems, if you just remove that AI out of the equation, you are going to find that as an interesting solution. So all you need to do is just pay attention to it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. Very well put. And you associated the coach and the mentor makes so much sense. So coming back to certain questions that no our audience have asked, it's a regular questions like the buzzes around AI. So is AI impacting job, and what kind of a job will AI create in 5 to 10 years? What's your take on it?
Absolutely. So AI, is it impacting jobs? It is impacting jobs, but so did outsourcing in India.
Yeah.
So when outsourcing happened in India, guess what? I always use that as an example. When outsourcing happened, jobs were lost in the parent company or the parent, place, the corporate offices. But guess what? They were created in India. When in India, from India, when jobs got further outsourced or things happened, did we ever have that as a problem? Absolutely. But did that mean somewhere else the problems didn't get fixed? Yes, somebody else, there was a, for a lack of a better word, lottery, because suddenly jobs are being created. In India, 20 years ago, we didn't know this will be where we will be, that every day there will be a GCC opening. That's phenomenal growth for a country, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with AI. I know we are seeing all the list of problems. It's the same as I go back to pregnancy. You're seeing all the problems and you're reading about it, and social media, ads, everything sensationalizes it. They're like, oh, there's a humanoid and it wants to kill. Guess what? How many of humans want to kill
Each other.
computers? How many of humans wanted to kill calculator when it was first built? It was all that. It is an instinct and it's okay. My point is one odd cannot define. So if you feel like I do, like when my daughter was born, I'm just going to take an example. I stopped reading the news for a bit. Why? Because it started disturbing me. As a mother, I would just read about this one odd child who got abducted, one odd child that was. Now, the thing is, it impacted my ability to be a good mother because all I will be like, don't leave her aside for a second. Don't leave her in the in the grocery store. Don't leave her anywhere. And today, my daughter is a 12-year-old who's traveled to a different continent altogether, and I'm not with her, obviously. It takes sometimes whatever floats your boat again. So if you feel like for a bit you want to, remove that off the question, remove it. Nobody's there to judge you. But did that mean so now what I do is I have feeds that come in, only news feeds. I do not read things that just takes me and puts me in a spiral mode of, oh my God, the safety of everybody who's in that continent right now is in question. I don't need to know that because
Right.
that will not help me sleep at night. So it's very, very important to realize what is important and what is noise. So cut out the noise, make sure you're putting your head down and working on a plan. That's just how I would say it. Back to you, Revati.
Oh, Grace, very well put. There's another question. You did address completely your presentation and everything, but still, um, so for a non-IT professional to go into AI, what is the what is that it looks like for a non-IT professional in an AI driven world right now? Is it scary or no? It's going as from your presentation, I thought it's going to make life easier for them. How you play smart is something that you have to see. That's what I got. So what is
For me, I think the easiest way to tell you, will tech help you if you are in the AI space? The answer is always yes. Anybody says no, they're wrong, including me. Do I choose to go through technical knowledge? I just need to know how it works. That's it. Know what is relevant for your job or the role that you're aspiring and keep a backup, which means two, three spaces that you want to get into. Make sure that, like, how is tech working? You're not looking to become a developer. If you're looking to become a developer, and if I say, oh, tech's not important, I'm being out of my mind. But if I say, guess what? You're not looking to be a developer, you're looking to be a project manager. As a project manager, you just need to know how much time does a developer take to develop it. You don't need to develop it, you don't need to code it. And yes, in your career, are you going to meet somebody who will look at you and say, hey, you don't know anything about coding, don't come and tell me. I've faced that 120 times. Anybody and everybody would just throw it at my face saying, you've never done coding, don't throw it at me. But you need to know again what your strengths are. Don't just be critical. Again, this goes back to my start of my session. I have always been critical of me. Learn from me. Being critical will make you take up roles sometimes which you don't want to take up. You probably are getting out of your complete comfort zone. Know and have the wisdom. These are my strengths. I'm good at project managing. I'm good at scheduling. I'm good at selling. Guess what? I can sell it. I'm a salesperson. I can sell AI. I can sell ice to an Eskimo. Absolutely. Why not? Sell it. Then why can't you sell AI? It's as simple as that. If you're good with, say, problem statements, like I said, I am, Figure out how do you do this? Oh, can I do business casing? Can I do this? Can I do that? You will find roles where you'll find it fit. And that is when a chat GPT, a perplexity becomes your friend. Even if you don't have anybody as a sounding board, say, these are the 2 or 3 skills I'm good at. What are the possible roles can I apply? And this is my CV or whatever it is. Anything non-confidential, put it out there and just say, what are the possible roles I can apply for? Where are the gaps? It's going to do a good job. I'm not saying it's going to replace a mentor, but again, it's your starting point. When you go for a mentorship, you can always say, hey, I already did this. I already figured it out. I'm already fixing my gaps. Now tell me what else can I do? You're using your mentor's time also more effectively. And you're using your own, mind space, and you're using to channelize it in the right space. That's how I see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this insightful, very candid conversation. And we are actually overboard on time as well. Keeping that in mind, last question, because our women and the audience we have are women on break. We are, after all, her second innings. Does your organization have any returnship programs? And if any candidate wants to look into that, where can they go? Is there anything?
I'm going to give you a golden advice that's worked all my career. I would just go look up roles in companies. I have done that. And it's not something I'm ashamed to accept. People say, oh, referral is the only way to go. This is the only way to go. You have to be headhunted after a point. A lot of it is right. But sometimes you look up a role. You find out, oh, this role matches or is aspirational for me. I would love to do it. Sometimes take a chance, sometimes apply for roles. You want to do both. Sometimes apply for a role where you're complete fit.
Okay.
You never know where sometimes that aspirational will kick off. Half of my roles that I got through was because I just took a chance and applied for something that I was I was too inspired. And I think I was one of those smitten cats in the interview. I was like, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be here. If you just give me this chance, I promise you I'll learn everything. I don't know how, what work they saw. I've realized most people don't look to hire 100% fit, but they're looking for somebody who's eager, they're willing to learn. So I feel like that's a big part of it. Everything you attend, even in the trainings, you're showing your eagerness to get there. But now show up and actually speak it out, saying, I've learned these are the 3 things I learned, these are the 4 things I figured out, these are the problems I see, these are the solutions I see. Understand, start using it. Use somebody else. Even your peer group can be the sounding board. If there is somebody else like me who's looking for a job, sometimes I even talk to them. Don't think of them as your competition. Think of them as somebody whom you can support them. And sometimes I tell them, hey, I'm not applying for this role, but I think this is a good role. Do you want to apply? And they do the same thing sometimes. And sometimes they don't. It's okay.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
apply for a job. And if you know, like for example, again, if I'm on your LinkedIn, you see a job in Lowe's, feel free to reach out to me and say, Meera, can you refer me? Same way you would do to somebody and say, anywhere else in any company in the world, Google is your aspiring place to be in. Okay, you will find somebody who's your first or second network. You will apply for the role, but you will also reach out to that person and say, hey, I found this role. Do you think you I feel like the generic one saying, can I find a job and can you help me find a job is very generic vis-a-vis I am seeing a role in this FutureTech.AI, which I heard Revati talk about because it was in her background. Can I apply for a job here? In her second innings, I looked up, this is a role I found. Can I get this role? That's a very different. What's the worst? No. But that's better than can you help me with a job? The answer is yes, but they don't know how to help you. And it's a fair thing.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to conclude, and also you put it so lovely in a lovely way how to approach, right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time that you spent with us today. Very, very. I'm actually thrilled and know a lot of learnings I took myself. I think the audience also would have taken a lot. Thank you, Meera, for coming and making this possible for us at Her Second Innings.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Revati, for having me. And thank you again for all the team out there. All the best. Please know You're not the only one sailing in this boat. You're not the only one who's going through this problem. Someone has gone through it. And take the win as in along you can. That's the important bit. Keep your focus on, keep doing it, do more and practice more. That's it. Thank you so much again. Thanks, Revati. Thanks, Manjula, and thanks, everyone.